Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Midnight Show. I'm your host, Manuel Rodríguez, and today's subject is going to be politicians are smart. Guatemala is known for the Maya, tamales, and the innovative ways Guatemalan politicians use to commit acts of corruption. Here are some examples of Guatemalan politicians abusing their lack of intelligence. But we must take into account that most of the people in Congress aren't really prepared for the position. So anybody can apply, but most of them aren't really ready or did study to be in that position. Another fact, most of them don't read the laws or the things they have to vote. So they mostly end up voting what the party tells them to vote. The problem is that most of the time they don't vote for the things that really help the everyday Guatemalan person. And there are some exclusive times that these politicians vote because they are given, I'm not going to say bribes, but they are given like rewards for voting in a certain way. Now, in the first video, you'll see the current president of Guatemala asking people to donate their cents, the cents they receive each month or are accumulated in their bank accounts, so Guatemala can battle malnutrition. Now, this is very funny in the way because he and his administration created a budget for the year 2020 where they reduced the amount that was going for the battle against malnutrition. So he asking people for more money when we all already pay taxes means not only that they aren't using the money where it's supposed to be, but if he's asking for the cents, like if we had to pay again, imagine the millions he would get if the people donated it.
Si los bancos del sistema nos donan sus centavos, rebajando a cero las cuentas, preguntándole a sus cuentavientes, y hacen una campaña de donarme los centavos al fondo de la educación, lo más que va a regalar un guatemalteco al mes son 99 centavos, y lo menos que puede regalar es uno. Yo ya les apuesto que nadie elegiría al final la chequera los centavismos, no nos pesaría, pero la suma de todos los cuentavientes del país dispuestos a contribuir con eso podrían hacer millones de niños o millones de razones entregadas a niños para combatirlo.
The problem is that every Guatemalan who can pay taxes has to pay taxes. So I think the job of the government should be to use the taxes to battle malnutrition, because that is a key objective of Guatemala. Yet the president goes out, he's asking for more money when he already has the taxes. And most of the time, we don't know how the money is used, because we find out that there are like jobs that were created for people who aren't really alive sometimes, and somebody just is receiving the money. So yeah, no Guatemalan wants to pay again when everybody's paying taxes. So he's out of line and whatever he's thinking. And there were even memes made about it, because how could he ask for more money when the government is receiving the taxes? So if he's the head of the government, he should know that part of the taxes, when he builds a budget, should go to battle malnutrition. I find it logical, but in these politicians' heads, I don't know what they're thinking. Now, talking about the year 2020 budget, I have to say it was overthrown when the general population found out many things that they put in the budget that didn't make no sense. Like imagine they earn a lot of money, and yet they budget the food of the people in Congress when they have their own salary to pay it. So every single day they receive, well, the days that they go to Congress, because it's not all the days, and even when they have to go, they don't go, most of them. So there's a budget for paying their lunch every day, when most of the people, if they earn their own money because they're working a job, they should pay their own lunch. It's one of the things that don't make sense. And how can you pay for the lunch of congressmen each day and reduce the budget to battle malnutrition? So it's kind of really dumb what they're doing. It makes no sense. Congressmen can pay for the lunch, and the kids who are suffering malnutrition need the help of the government. I think it's logical where the money should go. So even in that, Congress doesn't make any sense approving those budgets. When the budget for 2020 was overturned because there were massive protests because of what Congress had approved that make no sense, and the president tried to say that it was going to help, and yeah, it wasn't clear what they were doing. One of the congressmen was really mad because supposedly the money he was going to get for his municipality was going to go for infrastructure. So as you're going to see on the video, he insults more than half of Guatemala. That guy really is never going to get a Nobel Peace Prize.
Gracias, señores, por estorbar el desarrollo de la población guatemalteca. Pero ahí está el voto y no es por temor a nadie, ni por excusa porque no tenemos que agachar la cabeza, más que solamente nuestras rodillas e inclinarlas delante de Dios, y delante de cualquier comelón de frijoles estaremos de pie todo el tiempo.
Now that you've seen the video, he's paying a person more than $20,000 a month to write his speeches, to be his counsel and what he has and has to say and what not to say, which makes no sense because he just said in 2020 he said that, and that's very insulting because more than half of the country of Guatemala lives with less than $1, and they eat beans and tortillas. If they're lucky, that 3 times a day. If they're not, maybe 2 or just 1. So he going to Congress and being mad and saying that when he is not really using his head to say things was very maddening for most of the Guatemalan population. But I think what is very key here is that most congressmen don't know what they're doing there because they aren't politicians. They just look for the position, and most people who are in Congress are just really there because they want power. They don't want to change things. So you can see his super intelligence and the statement he made, which insulted a lot of people and showed us how smart he really is. Okay, in the next video, we can see the former president of Guatemala. He's being interviewed, and they're talking about corruption because his son and his brother were involved in an act of corruption that took place on 2013, and you're going to see it's amazing what he responds.
¿Cree que su hermano Sammy y su hijo José Manuel no son culpables de corrupción?
Mire, tal vez todo eso es parte de una corrupción que se ha vivido en el país. Una corrupción que de una u otra forma en Latinoamérica, en Guatemala y en muchas partes del mundo, en determinados momentos se han considerado como normales.
Corrupción normal,
eso
es un término muy complejo, ¿no?
Mire, digamos, no es muy complejo, pero es
Pero
una
corrupción
realidad.
normal, o sea, aceptar la corrupción como algo normal es una cuestión cultural.
Educacional.
Now that you have seen the clip, does that guy look like he never did something corrupt? You can't say corruption is normal. Politicians in Latin America, they try to normalize it, but it's never going to be normal. The idea that we see it as something normal, yeah, really, he wasn't thinking. If he goes to a program and say that, that's not really using his head. And then to say if it was educational, I hope he meant what not to do. Because if they're educating other future politicians to continue the same bad practices they are committing, that doesn't help the general population. That will only make any politician rich, but that will not solve the problems that are in Guatemala. And plus, I've never heard my parents ever say, that they're going out to rob a bank. So it can't be anything normal. Or they never told me we're not going to pay taxes. So it's only in his head he's trying to normalize things, because it isn't normal. Corruption cannot be normal. It doesn't matter if you're in a party on the left or on the right. Corruption is corruption. It cannot be normalized. And there cannot be an excuse that if you're in one party, it's okay because you're battling communism, which has happened here in Guatemala a lot and makes no sense. If you're from the left or of the right, the objective should be the same. Try to work to help the general population and try to stop corruption. And neither of the two had worked on purpose to end corruption. So it's really hard, because every time a new party comes in, they rule and they accuse the parties that are against them that they are corrupt and everything, but there's always corruption. There's so much potential in Guatemala. It could grow a lot, but the corruption is rampant. But I have an analogy of the Guatemalan politician. If herpes was corruption and you went to the medic and he tested you and said, you have herpes in one testicle, you need treatment, politicians here would be, yeah, let it spread. Because there are very few who are fighting it, who know it must be treated. And there are a lot of the congressmen that are in favor of it, because corruption benefits on many levels to very different people. So, yeah, they would probably tell the doctor, yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to treat it. Let it spread to my butt or something like that. We have very peculiar politicians. Here we have one of the former vice presidents, where we can see that she's trying to defend herself, and then she says things that are not only could insult her family, but that make no sense. So yeah, she's not using her head.
No me he robado un centavo, uno, del pueblo de Guatemala. Se los juro por la vida de mi madre que está muerta.
How could you swear on somebody who's dead and your mother? That makes no sense. If I swore on my mother, I think my dad would probably smack me. So these people really, have no bounds on what to say or do, what they say or do. When you see this video, you're gonna understand, but this is super funny, of the former president of Guatemala.
Nuestra administración ha sido transparente, gracias a Dios. Y si alguien está haciendo actos de corrupción, que se persiga el delito, pero que no se persiga personas, porque la justicia es para perseguir a los delitos, no a las personas.
As you can see in the statement, he said we had to pursue the crime. He doesn't use the word criminal, but somebody who commits a crime is a criminal. So he's saying we must pursue the crime, but not the person who commits it, criminal, which makes no sense because crimes don't happen on themselves. You don't go out on the street and say, there's no money in the bank because it was robbed. It robbed itself. No, somebody robbed it. Even in those statements, they lack intelligence because there is no logic. There is a crime and a criminal who commits it. We cannot only investigate the crime without catching the criminal. Makes no sense, but that's the logic of a former president of Guatemala. So you can see we're dealing with real smart people here. After seeing this next clip, you'll have even more fun.
Les cuento una historia que no me la creen los senadores en Estados Unidos y le digo que miren los informes y después me dan la razón. La CIA está bien informada de esto y la DEA también. Guatemala es el único país que persigue aviones de cocaína con camiones. ¿Y saben qué es lo más chilero? Los atrapa. Esas son las historias y las leyendas de Guatemala. Con un camión atrapamos un avión.
The president made it look like we had like Optimus Prime fighting the drug planes. Yeah, if you think about it, he maybe thought Optimus Prime was on our side and fighting drugs here. Because I don't know how he apparently was catching drug planes with trucks. They fly. Trucks are on the ground. I don't know if he imagined the trucks threw nets at the plane or something to catch them. So yeah, he was clearly imagining it. If you want to share any anecdotes about the politicians in your country, remember to use the hashtag politicians are smart. Yeah, before I forget, we're going to have a special for Valentine's Day about the things you must do and not do during the day. Remember to comment, like, subscribe, and see you next time.